on my way to work. So I heard Rob Parker, and I didn't know who the other gentleman was, but Rob Parker was talking about something very interesting. Now, I've talked about this over the years. I've said this about the NBA when making a comparison with the NFL. The NFL is just number one. They're just, you know what I'm saying, miles ahead of everybody. They run sports. They are number one. Even though over the years, based off some of the rule changes they've done a good job to kind of turn people away, you know, adjusting the rules a little bit. But people still love the NFL. But Rob Parker basically has said that the NBA doesn't really care about small market teams. And to a certain degree, I've said this, that they don't know how to market small market teams and, you know, promote the league as a whole. I think the thing is with the NFL, it's more about the helmet and the logos versus the NBA, where it's more about the individual because, well, in basketball, they don't wear helmets. So you're going to see their faces and recognize them a lot more than you will your superstar. So unless they, you know, footage of them sitting on the sidelines, going to see much of them. And it's not, and then for it's going to be implanted in your head. So like if you used to see them, you know, at a grocery store or something, or see them at a casino in Vegas, or just see them at some random place, you might not remember or recognize who they are, where versus the NBA is all about face recognition. So that's the difference. But I feel like the NBA could market themselves like the NFL if they actually tried. There's always been this thing. It's hard to get the superstars to stay in one place. Where, once again, the NFL, it doesn't matter who plays in the Super Bowl, it's going to draw big ratings. Where you look at the NBA, well, it all depends on who's playing in the finals. Me, myself, I think David Stern and the NBA hated every time the Spurs went to the finals. Because the Spurs drew some of the worst ratings in NBA finals history. Me, myself, I like the San Antonio Spurs. You look at what's going on now. You have the two best teams in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm going to do a separate video too. You had the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team nobody cares about. And then you have OKC. They are two of the best teams in the league. The two best teams in the league. Record-wise, say they're the best teams in the league. Now, the finals, it'll be a different story. They got to get to the finals. But let's just say Cleveland wins it all. And then you look at the problem is with the NBA. They have a set schedule on what games that they put on national TV. I think that they should just have certain games where they could just throw on the fluke. Cleveland got a really good team. And Donovan Mitchell is a star within his own right. And Cleveland's playing really good basketball. And so is the OKC. Alexander is possibly going to be the league MVP. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that the NBA continues to do is center the league around aging stars. LeBron James is 40 years old now. Nobody at this point really cares about LeBron James. You just got to tell the truth. Nobody at this point cares about LeBron James. LeBron James' best years is behind him, by far. And then Stephen Curry is aging. Kevin Durant is aging. Those dudes are on their way out. I know they want to pass the mantle to guys like Anthony Edwards and Luka and those type of dudes, but then sometimes with Anthony Edwards, what I've said about Anthony Edwards, sometimes it seems like he's into the game, and then sometimes it seems like his head is somewhere else. And I think the thing is with Luka, as good as he is, I just think he's on that same level as Tim Duncan. Nobody cares about Luka. You just gotta keep it 100. Nobody cares about him. The NBA need to spend some money to hire a marketing agency that can re-pitch the league to a different fan base. And then I'm gonna tell you something else. Another reason why I think the NBA, why they're sinking in ratings, is because of certain things that they got. Just certain, just certain things you see in that may not sit well with the, male testosterone. You've seen the feminization and the emasculation of NBA players. I think people are turned off by watching dudes wearing these suspect looking outfits, guys playing basketball wearing nail polish and all that kind of stuff. It's just weird. And whether people like it or not, and people want to play these politically correct games, accept this and accept that, there's certain things that people are not going to accept, and that's just the bottom line, and people need to just face it. I think when you think about sports, you think about testosterone, you think about manhood. And I just think over the years, they went out of their way to take that away and make it seem like it's shameful. And that's what I mean when it comes to what I would call, as far as masculinity, calling certain masculinity toxic and all that stuff, aka straight shaming. When you watch basketball in the 70s to 80s, even in the early 90s, you saw what you would call testosterone. You seen manhood, at one time. Just like when, I think it was TNT, when they had movies for guys that like movies. But what they did, to me, especially the NBA, they sold the game out to a little bit and watered it down, thinking that it would attract a certain demographic. And you know what demographic I'm talking about. And the funny thing is, a certain demographic want to argue about representation, but then at the same time, they're not buying tickets. They're not watching NBA games. They're not watching movies centered around them, but then they complain about lack of representation. So I just think what they've been putting out has turned a lot of people off, and nobody wants to be honest and say what the problem is, because they worried about so-called cancellation or being criticized. Well, you know what? You criticize me because I don't care. I'm at the point where I don't care, and this just needs to be said. When people face the truth, the better off they're gonna be. At the end of the day, you just can't cater to everybody. You can't make everybody happy. And a lot of times, certain people from a certain different demographic, they hypocritical. You want to be there, but then you don't want to be there, or you're not there. But the NBA has just done a piss poor job of, marketing their product to a wider audience. Something that they should consider doing, they might have to take a page out of the NFL. I think during the season, listen, there's 82 games. I think what they're going to have to start doing, they're going to have to start doing the same thing that the NFL does. They're going to have to start playing games in other places in the regular season. You're talking about 82 games. Why aren't you playing games like in Europe? See, the NFL has done a better job of making their product a global product, a more global product. Why isn't the Timberwolves like playing at least 1 or 2 games overseas? Why not? It would be easier. It would be easier to do it with the NBA versus doing it with the NFL. But then again, you got these players, the superstars. That's another thing. I don't want to play back-to-backs. I don't want to play versus this team. Now listen, I'm all for keeping your players healthy because you do play 82 games. I do think if you play back-to-backs, the starters should be on minute watching, where basically if you play a back-to-back, let's just say you can't play them no more than, at the minimum 20 minutes. So I understand that. People have to understand, and the NBA should understand this. You are charging people thousands of dollars, depending on where they want to sit at. They don't want to see their favorite they don't want to see their favorite NBA stars sitting on the bench when he's capable of playing. So I just think that they need to have a 360-degree turnaround and start to have a remarketing strategy. They need to hire some people because it's a fixable situation. They need to start playing more games, like I said, overseas. I understand about travel and all that kind of stuff. I understand that completely. You should consider playing games in Mexico City more. The UK. Hell, more games in Canada. And then something else I think the NBA should consider doing is playing certain games in cities that don't have a team. Why not play a couple of NBA games in Baltimore or St. Louis? Hell, even in Oakland. There's a lot of things the NBA can do. And then based off the fact that these teams travel a lot anyway, why not? And then based off the fact that a lot of these teams are, for the most part, are not playing back-to-backs anymore. They've extended the schedule. They extended the schedule in between games because players were talking about they didn't want to play back-to-back. So I think it's a lot of things that the NBA could do to fix their product. But I've always said that they didn't care about smaller market teams. They would be okay with Indiana going to the finals as long as they was playing the Lakers. They'll be okay with Portland going to the finals as long as they was playing the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it took the league some time to get used to the emergence of the Golden State Warriors. Because I think to a certain degree, they didn't like the idea of the Golden State Warriors getting to where they were. I think the league did not like the Golden State Warriors to a certain degree going to the finals every year. I didn't think they cared too much for the dominance and the emergence of the Golden State Warriors being a powerhouse in the NBA. Adam Silver, to me, I think was livid when Kevin Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors. But then again, and then the Warriors ended up with Kevin Durant. And had Kevin Durant decided to stay with the Golden State Warriors, which they forced Kevin Durant to lead the Golden State Warriors. They harassed him with the help of the media to get him to leave Golden State. Only for him to go to Brooklyn and play pretty much with another super team, but they had an issue with the super team that featured him, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson. So I know now that they have been showing the Warriors, on national TV, but I think they didn't care for it. They had no choice because the Warriors became a powerhouse. They don't ever want to see a team like Charlotte get to a point to where they're competing for a championship. I say this all the time, and I've said this on several occasions. I think with the next collective bargaining agreement, I think they should put incentive for potential superstar players to get extra money if they play in the smaller market. And then that's another thing with the players. These players sign these long-term deals, so-called long-term deals, but after 3 years into the contract, it'll say 5 years, it'll say 6 years, but after 3 years, they can opt out. So it's a lot of different elements. That is the problem. A lot of these dudes, they don't want to play in places like Charlotte. They don't want to play in places like Portland. But the thing is, everybody can't play for the Celtics. Everybody can't play for the Miami Heat. Some people say it's too many teams, that they need to downsize teams, which they not gonna do that. But at the same time, they have these teams floating around that they know for the most part ain't gonna be competitive, are not gonna ever be able to contend for a championship. And that's the problem. They just have them around just to fill the schedule. Do anybody see the Charlotte Hornets contending for a championship anytime soon? Not really. The NBA has put too much focus, in particularly on the Lakers. Now they wish the Knicks could get it together. They hoping Brooklyn could possibly get it together. But they all about marketing and wanting to have bigger market teams playing in the playoffs and eventually the finals. To them, a Cleveland, when I say a Cleveland OKC finals, would be a nightmare for the NBA. They feel it would be a ratings nightmare. So this is something that the NBA, they're going to have to evaluate, and they're going to have to figure out how to fix. Me, myself, I think it's an easy fix. I think they need to spend some money on advertising some of these players that play for these small market teams, more commercials, more NBA brand apparel. This is the internet age now. They could hire some of these, people on YouTube and stuff. But at the same time, the NBA, to a certain degree, they still don't respect content creators. Which they should. They need to get on board. Because we could help, and some of us are willing to help. So the NBA need to get off their high horse. And they need to figure out a way how to market smaller market teams. I've always said this has been a problem. So there you have it. And I'm going to say something else too. They need to get rid of that ridiculous in-season tournament, and they need to get rid of that stupid playoff system. Just go back to the regular playoff system. The best, the best 8 in the East and the best 8 in the West. None of this play-in tournament stuff is just stupid. It's too gimmicky, and you're watering down and ruining the product. So there you have it. It's your boy Tam. I'm out.